when you guys first got here, what was your first impression of the Peshmerga? You're suddenly immersed in a very different culture, different military culture, different way of fighting to a large extent, different equipment, not quite the logistics or resources that we would have had back in the United States military. I mean, what were you thinking when you first hit the ground?
A lot of things I was prepared for, but there were a lot of things I wasn't. Like the equipment, I was like, okay, no problem. I'm pretty familiar with AKs. I was kind of a gun nut in my civilian life. I like firearms, I like shooting. So I knew AKs well enough. I'm like, all right, I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with whatever they have as far as equipment. We brought our own, as far as body armor and stuff like that. Most of us brought our own stuff there. So
you brought your own kit.
Right. So we were set up there pretty well. The Kurdish culture is easy to get immersed in because they're very hospitable. They treat you great, especially if you're coming over to, genuinely trying to help. They're very appreciative. That means a lot. The way they fight was very different, and we had to adapt slowly because at first we were too Western military oriented, very fire maneuver.
Institutionalized
for sure, yeah. And there were things like with our first unit at 9th, it was things like light discipline at night didn't exist. They'd light fires around their berms, so they're silhouetting themselves, things like that. And it was little things like that, but at the same time, they know the area better than we do, so there's a reason they're relaxed at times. And when we're thinking, okay, well, we take contact any minute, but usually they know things we don't. And you but eventually you kind of learn that the way they fight is based around their capabilities. If they had the maneuverability and the communications and the structure that the Western military did.
They had air support, they had
directly, yes, then they would be able to fight the way we do, but instead they have to do it this way. So it's like they have a lot of modern stuff, but they have to scale back their tactics to an earlier time.
Yeah.
It's like being 100 years behind us almost.
Yeah. You can see in some places that, I hate to say this, but almost like World War I tactics.
Right.
Where it's like the two sides
trench warfare.
Yeah.
And then when they move in, it's like a column. And then, for sure, we've done our share of the burn line before we even did this. We met you at this offensive.
All right, Joey, do you want the same question? First impressions with the Peshmerga?
Well, with the Peshmerga, it was a bit different for me because we had one guy in 9th who kind of did the same thing. He went to Rojava first and then went to Peshmerga. So I had a force to compare them to. So, I mean, I expected them to not have good equipment and their tactics to be obviously not at the level they are in the U.S. military. So I wasn't too surprised to get out there with them and see how they operate. The light discipline thing, that kind of got to me a little bit because, they'd walk around in big groups with the commander and they would shine lights so he can see things out there. But, it always seemed like they knew something we didn't, so I just kind of ignored it. And if they would come near me, I'd try to kind of just move away a bit. I just move away just in case, But there was a little bit of a difference between the fighters in YPG and YPG than there are with the Peshmerga. Their tactics, the YPG seem to be more of like a guerrilla type.
Yeah.
And also with hospitality, general friendliness, having heart when they go fight. It seems like the YPG are a little bit stronger there. They treat you like family. They go out of their way always to give you anything you need, and they're always happy, always smiling, that kind of thing. Versus, well, I'm not saying Peshmerga aren't, but it's more toned down a little bit. Here is a lot different than in 9th. In 9th, I found that some of the guys weren't quite as friendly in 9th than they are here, but I guess it's because we played a different role here. But as far as equipment and tactics and these kinds of things go, I kind of saw and got what I expected.
It seems like one of the differences too between the YPG and the Peshmerga is that in the Pesh you have citizen soldiers, guys who are working civilian jobs, but then they come in, they're fighting these big battles.
Absolutely. And they're getting paid too, also, which sometimes, but
Just different motivation.
yeah. And they, those guys over there, they're not getting paid, and they're just kind of always there. Aside from the 10-day rotation thing, you got a lot of younger guys also in the FAG.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Maybe not as much money coming in over there too, so they're very conservative with like the VKC ammo. I don't know if you noticed, they like the single shot instead of suppressing.
The Dishka too, they like to put a scope on a Dishka and fire one bullet at a time. Yeah. So how about first impressions of the enemy? First contact with the enemy?
God. Well, my first engagement with Dosh was one of the rarest things we've seen in this country so far. It was an incredibly well executed ambush on a defensive position we were at around 2 in the morning. They got as close as they possibly could under darkness, and we had a Milana too with thermal, so I mean they got around that.
So they low crawled up to the
behind bird lines and through tall grass, and it's baffling. And luckily we had planned the day before with Westerners. Like one of our friends, James, and we got up on the berm and we're like, all right, how are we going to defend this? Because we're going to be all night. Set up a gun line here. We got to watch this. We had a wash coming around the left side with the creek beds. We're like, okay, we got to watch this because it's exactly how I creep up to this position.
So there's low ground that could come up to your position.
Pretty much there's a high ground front, open fields, and like a fish pond thing, both empty, and then open terrain, and then there's a riverbed coming up along the left side.
And on your side, you had a Milan, you had some riflemen.
Right. We had a few Humvees placed with Dushkas, MG3s, and BKCs. Anyway, what happened was me and the guy he went to Rojava with, Justin, we were sitting up there on next to this Humvee on the burn line, but offset to where this little concrete structure was. And we were hanging out there, and they were sweeping the further out trench with a light, where the Peshmerga was. And we caught a glint, and we were like, for whatever reason, trying to flash, I'm like, no, right there, point it there. And we're like, listen, wait. And we heard just the guy trucking, and I'm like, oh no, he's moving, that's definitely a dude. Anyway, we caught the glint again, and
the light was reflecting off something he was wearing.
Probably a scope, I'm guessing. It looked like a scope glare. Anyway, at that point, we're looking for the Peshmerga lieutenant so we can, before we open fire on this whatever this is, because we're like, screw it, I'm not, better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, couldn't find him, so we're like, hey dude, let's light him up, screw it. We let off a few bursts of mine, he was doing single shotting, and didn't get anything back, but we were cut off. They were told to stop by our jet commander at the time, because he came running over, freaking out, you must have discipline, yelling at us, and he said, no, that's 2 kilometers. I'm like, no, that's 100 meters. So he wasn't really sure. He thought we were pointing at this light on the horizon.
He didn't realize it was right on top.
Yeah, and we're like, whatever, man, and we're excuse me. So we're sitting there behind this concrete structure, just kind of stewing like, this is bullshit. I know what we saw, and we're like, I'm talking about it. Next thing we knew, RPGs were sailing right past our heads. We're diving in the deck, shouting RPG, getting up, firing around the corners, like lighting up the field in the position that we saw before.
How many enemy muzzle flashes do you think you saw?
Oh man, I'd say 5 muzzle flashes at any, sporadically. I'm guessing around 10 to 5 guys. Because they had
5 to 10 bad guys out there.
Yeah, they had an RPG team, and they had BKC gunners, at least 2 of those, and then your AK guys, and then they had a mortar team who was putting very accurate mortar fire. They were triangulating them around our little structure. Anyway, what happened was, we played it out with them with the firefight for a bit, and mortars started coming in. We started hearing them launch. I'm like, crap. Because nobody likes IDF. Yeah. And anyway, there was a truck down below us on the berm where last thing we saw were 5 of our Westerners from our group in it, and it hit right behind the truck bed. It was like a 61. And it just cloud of smoke and debris, and I remember I saw it go off, and I shut my eyes and did this, and I just felt get peppered by dirt and crap like that. And we're like, oh crap, and it kind of clicked like, oh crap, oh, are you guys all right? And we just hear out of this desk called, yeah. And then go running out of it shooting. And we're like, okay, they're alive, we're good, and we keep fighting. But anyway, that was the first one to hit. And then the second one hits over here, and another one hits over here, and I'm starting it in my head, I'm like, oh God, they're doing them right, they're walking them right around.
They're bracketing you.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, that's like right around us. Oh, the next one's gonna hit us. In my head, I'm like, all right, screw it, just keep going. You can't do anything about it, just keep fighting. And anyway, yeah, it was incredibly well executed ambush. Back to the equipment question, my RBK had a catastrophic malfunction to where a casing got lodged in the bolt carrier group X section. So we had to field strip it under fire and put it all back together.
Failure to eject.
Yeah, and just got it lodged in there.
Oh.
I was sitting there like crap. Like this is like I jumped off the berm and did like a slide down the hill, bolted fly. It was like something out of a movie.
And that was all you had at that point.
Yeah.
You were out of the fight.
Got it back up, and then we started. I grabbed another Westerner, let them do their business up top, and I started. Hey, we need to suppress this wash. I don't see anything yet, but let's put some rounds in it and make sure they can't maneuver on us, because they have a history of being flanked. That are some of our guys that happen.
They try to destroy you.
Right. So anyway, we hear them shouting "Allah Akbar." We're yelling, "Fuck you, Allah Akbar! Fuck you!" And one of our colonels said it encouraged me. He said, "Allah Baghdadi's a woman!" Like motherfucker. And he's like, we're just talking shit and fighting these guys. Lasted about 2 hours. At daylight, broke as they retreated tactically under fire. We rolled into a Dishka and an M2, two Dishkas, Humvees. They brought up around the left side and started chasing them out. And
so you weren't able to recover any bodies or anything?
No. They either pulled their dead or they all made it out, and we didn't get any hits. I mean, it was pitch black out there because there's no city lights in those areas, so it's literally just, we had no moon. It was pitch black. Luckily, I did bring AK tritium night sights from home, so I could actually. Oh,
sweet. Okay.
Which was great because when I got that RPK, the sights were all crooked, so I was like, oh, I can take this one. Yeah. That was awesome being able to line them up, but I remember that very specifically.
What about you, Joey?
I missed out on that one, man. I got wicked food poisoning earlier that day.
Maybe you didn't miss it.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm saying I was missing it.
Yeah, we were there for a good part of the day, just scouting it out. And these guys I left around sundown because I don't know, I got a random piece of meat in my beans. So I asked the guys, like, "Hey, you guys get meat in your soup?" And they're like, "No." I was like, "Oh, shit." So yeah, I went back to the base and these guys took contact. And
So you had any other first contacts with?
First contact was a real short one over in Rojava.
Thank you.
Me and Justin, it was at the beginning of the push to Tal Hamas. Justin, the guy I came over with after we took
Tal Hamas in Syria.
Yeah, in Syria. It was the first time we ever took contact. It was real brief, but we had taken the village and the guys were kind of relaxing. We actually, our small group was about 6 or 7. We were taking cover from, well, not taking cover, but we were behind a house that was covered from where they would come from if they were there. Some of the YPG guys were just hanging out in the middle of the road, and I think 2 or 3 guys just started popping shots at them, and those guys just started running. Our YPG guys started running, jumping over the wall towards us, and me and Justin, we had our weapons on us, so we just went and returned fire. They were pretty far off though, but we just made them run. But just from all of the handful of experiences I've had fighting them, I definitely underestimated how tactically inclined they are. They're a lot smarter than we think they are. They shoot a little bit better than we think they would. But
it sounds like it depends so much on, just like the group of Kurds, some are better trained than others. It sounds like it's the same thing with the enemy and the Daesh. Some of them seem like they really have their act together, wired pretty tight, and others are just amateur hours, civilians who have been pushed up.